Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the nervous system. This is just an overview. It's a pretty quick hit on the system. So basically you're going to look at the subsystems, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So what is the nervous system? In psychology, the way I want you to start thinking of it is that it is the system in your body that messages everything. So it sends the messaging between your brain and your body and between your body and your brain. It takes in all of the sensory information and gives out a response to it. Now there's two main divisions, as you can see in this picture. The first one is called the central nervous system. So let me get a pen here. And so the central nervous system is made up of the brain. It's all in pink here, and the spinal cord. And the spinal cord goes all the way from the back of your brain down through your tailbone. So when you think of the central nervous system, just think of the word central. So it is in the central part of your body. So just two parts to it, the brain and the spinal cord. I say just two. Those are some pretty important parts, obviously. And then we also have the peripheral nervous system. For those of you that don't know, the word peripheral means things to the outside of the center. So your arms are peripheral, your legs are peripheral to that central part of your body. Okay, so think about this as being in the periphery. I'll move myself here because I'm kind of in the way. But apparently I can't. Sorry guys. Oh, there we go. There we go. So peripheral nervous system, if you look at this picture again, it's all the nerves that come out from the central nervous system out to your extremity. So they go all the way from the spinal cord out to your arms and fingertips, down your legs and into your toes. They actually go into your digestive system. They are literally, it's called an innervation, right? So it's nerves that are a part of every part of your body. So those are the two main systems of the nervous system, central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So let's talk about what each one of those do. Let me erase this. It kind of looks like an octopus. Okay, so what do? So let's start with the central nervous system. What is it responsible for? It basically, it takes in all that information that you get from the periphery and it makes sense out of it. And then what it's going to do is it's going to turn around and send a response back out. It could be movement, it could be digestion, it could be no movement. But basically, it's, like I said, the messaging system. Interestingly, so your vertebrae in your spine, those are the bones of your spine. Move this again. And you can see here that there are 4 types of vertebrae. So you have cervical, which is in your neck, thoracic, which is in your chest area, lumbar, which is your lower back, and then sacral is down into your tailbone area. Those vertebrae not only protect your spinal cord, they allow for the movement that we have in our body, and it's pretty cool how they're built. In terms of the peripheral nervous system, what does it do? So it brings in the sensory information, and it's going to take in that input and bring it to the central nervous system. The central nervous system figures out what to do, sends a message back out to the periphery, and it says, hey, here's what you're going to do. So the easiest example of this is I put my hand on a hot burner on my stove. The skin, my hands, my pain receptors, all of those send signals to my central nervous system. My central nervous system figures out, hey, you're in danger, sends the message back to my hand and to my muscles, and my hand pulls away from the burner. So central nervous system, let me rephrase that. Peripheral nervous system gets the information, hey, this burner's hot, you're burning your hand, send the signal to the central nervous system. Central nervous system figures out you're in danger, move your hand, sends that signal out to my muscles in the periphery, and that gets done. So that is what it does. Now we're going to go into a lot more detail about damage to the nervous system, but I just want to kind of give you a quick overview. You've probably heard that where you damage your spinal cord determines how much paralysis you're going to have, and that is absolutely true. So if we look at this picture here, and I'm going to get a red pen, if you damage your vertebrae C4 at the cervical vertebrae number 4, you will have what we call quadriplegic or tetraplegic. So you will have no control below the neck. This is what Christopher Reeves had. He was the original Superman, and he was an equestrian, fell off his horse during a show and landed on his head and broke his right at his C4, his cervical vertebrae number 4. There's 7 of them. And he didn't even have control of his breathing, so he had to have a machine that would help him breathe. If you break the 6th cervical vertebrae and damage the spinal cord at C6, you will have partial paralysis of the hands and arms, as well as the lower body, but you maintain control of your breathing and of your voice. Keep going. We're down into the thoracic vertebrae. If you damage your spinal cord right around the thoracic area, it basically starts below the chest at that point. You do lose control of bladder and bowel function, and so you'll have to have a catheter. I had a friend who had this happen. She had gone to Mexico and rented one of those quads, the bikes with the 4 wheels, and the bike flipped, and she broke her back right at about her T6, and she lost all feeling from right below her chest down. If you go a little bit lower down into the lumbar region, you're going to be below the waist, and a little bit further down, you'll gain back the ability to control the bladder, which can be a big life, a quality of life issue for that damage. Okay, let's keep going. Another one that you guys probably are pretty familiar with is traumatic brain injuries, because this has to do with concussions. So there's lots of different types. You can have a direct brain injury, which would be a concussion. You can have an acceleration or deceleration injury. That would be, for example, getting in a car accident and your brain basically, it's called coup contre coup, where your brain hits forward, hits the front of your skull, and then your head goes back, and then your brain hits the back of the skull. So you get damage on both the front and the back. And then you can also have blast injury, where the energy waves do the damage. Something I just can't stand is shaken baby syndrome, and we'll talk a little bit about that, especially during development. But basically, this is a syndrome where parents will often get really frustrated with their kids if they're crying and they're not sure about parenting, and they shake the baby to get them to stop crying, and that gives that coup contre coup brain damage, and it is just absolutely horrific. And I have a picture here of the damage to the brain that you can see. If you look at this scan, and we'll have fun with some scans, I love brain scans, the damage is all on this side here that you can see, and you can kind of picture it with this little picture here. So they shook them so hard that the baby started to get what's called a brain bleed, or a hematoma within the brain. So all those blood vessels hit the skull so hard that they broke the blood vessels. It's like a bruise on the brain. So I know that was a little depressing, but we're going to talk about why damage to the brain has so many symptoms, and sometimes it's very hard to actually identify. So that's it for this video. Thanks, guys.